Hello, it's Sandy with a little bit of glitter again. Today I've got another Valentine's Day card. I am just enamored with lawn-fawn's new Magic Iris heart add-on. So I'm using that once again along with the Porcu-Pine for You add-on. I just love that chunky little guy. He is just my favorite, and I like the sentiment, "You prickle my fancy." Go ahead and hit subscribe. I plan on doing more videos in the future. And if you have a comment, go ahead and leave it. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with a white shimmer cardstock. I've also cut the candy hearts out of pastel shimmered cardstock. I placed the candy hearts on the back of the Magic Iris Heart add-on exactly where I wanted them. I taped them there so that when I cut it out, I would still maintain the stitching on the edges of that add-on. That way they look more intentional as opposed to just being clipped and put on the top of that card. It also helps it look more uniform around that curve where the slider is and where the inside where the heart is. I had some trouble getting the tape off of my little hearts, so I had to pull out my handy undo remover. I don't know if any of you have used this stuff before, but it is a lifesaver when you're using glue tapes or tapes, and it won't come off your projects very easily. Just a spot will loosen that adhesive just enough where you can get that to pull off of your card without tearing your paper. It is always on my desktop. We're going to go ahead and remove all of those tapes. One thing that was interesting is how the cardstock picked up the imprint of those hearts when I ran it through the die cut machine. So it actually worked out to my benefit for when I was ready to place them or glue them onto the piece of paper. I knew exactly what heart I had where and at what angle I had placed it. So that was kind of helpful. It was a nice little pleasant surprise. Now that we have all of our pieces cut and ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and get my distressed ink oxide out, and I'm going to go ahead and use a spun sugar and just kind of blend a little bit on the edges of that card, on the outside edges and around the edge of the heart. And then I'm also going to do some blending on each one of those little sausage pieces that make the mechanism that opens and closes, or the iris part of the Magic Iris heart, just to give it a little bit of dimension and kind of soften those edges and make it look just a little bit more special. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab my spatter box. I'm going to water down some pink metallic paint, and I'm going to spatter all of those pieces. I'm not going to use any water or anything else. It's just the pink metallic paint. I have a hard time getting that right texture, so it's not too thick, it's not too thin. But again, everything's a process of learning. It's time to start putting everything together, so I'm going to take those 3 sausage pieces and put them in the one piece that I've got cut. I'm going to put my 3 little mini glue dots right on those little X's. And I highly recommend, if you haven't put one of these together, that you go to the lawn-fawn website and follow along with their intro to the Magic Iris. Kelly does a great video and really explains on how to put this mechanism together. I was really intimidated at first. The first iris I made, I just could not get it to work well. And it took me a long time to get the courage to make another one. Now that I've done several, it's really easy to put it together. So don't be discouraged if the first one doesn't turn out just right. Just keep trying. Believe me, it's just not as complicated as it seems to be. So again, I'm putting on the some more little pieces that are going to hold those two donut pieces together with just a little bit of tape. Do a little bit of tape right there. That's going to help me glue the little lever that opens and closes the iris. I'm going to put a little bit of glue now on those on those three pieces, putting that last donut on top that holds everything together. Now I'm going to try my mechanism. It's kind of hard in this state to get it to open and close. There we go. It's opening and closing just fine. Now I'm going to put the special little tab that came with the Magic Heart Iris, or the Magic Iris Heart add-on. I'm going to glue that in there, cut off that little tab. I also cut another tab piece out of the darker color, and I put the heart in there. Now I'm putting my my little hearts back on the base piece, gluing them where I had them. And I'm going to find, I was having really big trouble with my glue. I don't know why it kept clogging. I'm going to go ahead and put all of these on my card. I'm going to find that I don't like the way the hearts are looking on this card. It just seems like the words in the middle of those hearts have gotten lost. So I had cut extra hearts out, and I went ahead and taped the letters in the center of the extra hearts so that they wouldn't fall out or get stuck on my cutting plates. And you're going to see in a minute why I do that, because I want to keep them as much as possible stuck inside that heart so that I can transfer them into my heart. So right now I've taken all of those pieces. I'm taking the tape off of that. I lost the L off of that, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue in each one of those openings for the letter. I'm going to place that heart on top, and I'm going to kind of poke those letters into place. To me, that's just much easier than poking them out and then trying to pick them up with tweezers. These letters are so teeny that it makes it almost impossible to pick them up with tweezers and definitely with your fingers. So right now, I've got them on my tape. I'm going to push that tape down, and then I'm going to try to pry them off the tape, and then I'm pushing them into the openings. So either way you can do it. You can keep it on the tape, or you can keep them in the heart and then try to push them through the heart into the openings. So this one I've kept the heart, kept them in the heart, and I'm pushing them down. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't work at all. It can be a little tedious. O's are really difficult because you have that centerpiece that tends to be a problem. And that O, there we go. That one's pushed in there just fine. And we only have one more left to do. Oops. We're going to put the O's, the center of the O's back in there. They are a little bit tedious to get in there. I think those are the hardest letters to do. As soon as we get those done, we're going to get started on our little cutie. There we go. All right. Putting in our glue. Let's see how lucky we are with this one. See if we can get all those letters in there. And looks like we got 2 to come out. Push that I in there. Get that C flipped around. There we go. That one wasn't too bad. Now we just have the hugs left to do. Hopefully that one's not too tricky. And we're going to push those letters in that last heart. Looks like we're getting the hang of it. As usual, it's the last one we have to do. Perfect. It's time to start putting the mechanism to the front of our magic heart iris piece. So I've put some glue tape on those tabs. We're lining it up so it's nice and smooth on that right hand side where that little arrow tab is. We're going to give it a little try. There we go. Looks good. Looks really good. Got to put our little Porcu-Pine on there to see how cute it's all going to look. I've decided to use the Magic Heart Messages Lawn Cuts. I cut it out of Ballet Slippers cardstock. I'm using the sentiment from Porcu-Pine for You add-on. I cut in between the prickle, my fancy. So I've got you, prickle, my fancy on. That's what I want on my sentiment. So I'm lining that up on my little heart. I'm going to use my Misty to do that. I'm going to stamp that twice so I get a nice sharp image on there. So I've got it. I'm going to do it once. I'm going to ink it up again and do it twice. There we go. Now it's time to start coloring our little critters. We're using Copic markers. I'm going to start with the area closest to the little porcupine's body with E47. Then I'm going to go out with an E44, then an E43, and my lightest color is going to be on the very outside. It's an E42. For his body, for the areas that would be kind of shadow, so underneath his chin, around his arms, around his little ears, I'm going to go with an E45. Next color is going to be an E43, an E51, and then an E50, and so they're all going to kind of start moving inside rather than going out like we did on the outside of him. So the middle of him is going to be highlighted and the outside of him is going to be highlighted. So we're going to go around his little body. Here we go. And then we're going to finish up with, we're doing the E51 right now, and I'm leaving just a small area where we can go in with the E50. And then I just kind of just blend that color over the whole, his whole little body. Now I'm going to do the same process on the little porcupine. You know, you could probably get by with 3 colors on that one because he's so small. It'd be almost impossible to really highlight much of him. He's a cute little fella though. All right. And then we go with the E55. Now the 53. We're going to do a little bit of 51. And then we'll go over the whole little guy with some of the E50. Alright, I'm going to use a gel pen that's black, and I'm going to do their little noses. I like to do that. It's a nice solid color. Now I'm going to go in with the R21 and do their little ears and their little cheeks with that. For the little stumps, I'm going to use an E79 as my darkest color. Then I'm going to go with an E74. and then an E71, and then an E55 to kind of make that top a little bit lighter. I was thinking I was going to put the little porcupine on top of that, but at the end I decided that was a little bit too much porcupine, so we wound up putting the snail on him. Now we're going to go ahead and do the little hearts. I've got a base of R21. We're going to do a little bit of shading with an R24 and a little bit more shading with an R29. I went a little bit outside of the lines on that, but I think it's going to be okay. Doing the same exact color combination on the little mushrooms. Or mushrooms, yeah, that's what they are. I wanted to say toadstools, but I really don't know what the difference is between a mushroom and a toadstool, other than these are both really cute. So I'm using the R24, do a little bit of shading, I'm keeping a nice lighter color towards where it would be lighter. And I'm just doing a little bit of the R29, just a little bit more dimension. And I forgot the one little guy with the little smile. I'm going back in with the R21 to kind of blend it all out, smooth it all out. And then we're going to go back to my little smiley one. So 21, R24, and a touch of R29. There we go. Blend that out. A little invitation, do the same thing. For the little stems and dots, it looks like I'm using an E50 and an E51 just to give it a little bit of dimension. Cactus, we're going to use YGO3 for the base, and then we're going to do a little bit of shading with YGO9. I'm using a BGO1 for the base and BGO5 to shade it. For the invitation, I'm just using a little bit of C0 just for a little bit of gray shading. For my little snail, I'm using E51 and then E53 for a little bit of shading. And then for the shell, I decided to use BG000 and BG01 to do a little bit of shading on that. I just wanted to tie in a little bit more of the blue with that. Time to start putting it all together. So I knew that I wanted to put the cactus in the little porcupine's hands. So I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to put on that little stump. And the little porcupine was just too big. He just seemed too chunky for that thing. So I decided I'd use the snail. And I wanted to put a couple of the little mushrooms behind him or in front of him. So we went ahead with the two little ones that I had cut out. I wanted to do some mushrooms by the porcupine, but I just couldn't find the right spot to put it, and it just seemed like it was cluttering up that corner, so I kind of abandoned that idea. So now that I know what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and glue those on there. I'm going to do one porcupine behind the stump. I'm going to go ahead and put the stump in, and then I'll put a porcupine on top of the stump, and I think I used the one with the little face on it because he was just kind of cute. And I'm putting him off kind of at an angle just to give it a little bit of interest. I'll put my little snail on there. There he is. And I didn't glue the little cactus in the porcupine's hands because I figured that I would glue it at the same time I was gluing the porcupine onto the card. That way I didn't get glue smushed all over the little porcupine as I was gluing them in there. Still wanted to use those little mushrooms, but I just couldn't find a way to do it. So I did want to put some little heart above his head, so we put the two little hearts above his head. Yeah, I just felt like the card was, oh, I'm going to put our little sentiment in there. So on the back of the card, I'm going to use foam tape and foam dots. I cut a piece of raspberry cardstock, 5¼ so 5½ by 4¼ Now I'm putting my glue dots all around the outside edge, making sure nothing's touching that mechanism. And then I'm going to put some glue tape on those little strips there. And then I'm going to go ahead and place that on my card base there. Perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and put some glue tape on the back of my heart and get it placed in there just right so that when I open that mechanism, it's going to be in the right spot. It actually was a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I was having a hard time getting it lined up just right. Once I had it in one spot I liked it, then it wasn't quite straight. A little bit of patience. Eventually get there. Looks like I've got the perfect placement. Making sure my mechanism works right. Good, good, good. All right. Now I needed to put a little bit more on it. It just seemed like it was missing something. So I went ahead and cut out some hearts from the, and I always get the name of this wrong, this Hearts and Stars Skinny Tag die set. So I cut hearts out of the yellow shimmer cardstock, some of the orange shimmer cardstock, and some of the raspberry colored shimmer cardstock in 3 different sizes. And I just kind of placed them around the card where I thought they looked good. The more I looked at it, it just seemed like it was still missing something. So I thought it just needed a different color. It needed one more color on there. It just seemed a little flat. So I went ahead and cut some of the turquoisey cardstock hearts, and then I decided I'd go ahead and put those on there too. So I once again started placing hearts around where I liked them. As you can see, I'm using that waxy end of that little tool there. I do love that tool. It's just perfect. Picks things up just right. Get those moved around there. I really thought this was a cute card. Like I said, at first the magic iris was really intimidating for me just because I had so much trouble on the first one. And I think a lot of it might have been the weight of paper I was using. It might have been too light. I don't know, but I just haven't had the problems I did on the first one. Maybe I was overthinking the first one. I tend to do that. So, all right, I'm gluing down all my little hearts. I still felt like it needed a little something. So we're going to get out the, well, I thought I would do some white gel pen on the hearts, but that just didn't look right. It kind of blended in too well. So we got out the stickles, and we're going to put stickles around all of the heart edges. And at first I started just at the top. I put a little bit on the porcupines, a little snail, little mushrooms. And then a little dot on each one of the little teeny things, and then I started getting carried away like I usually do with stickles. Can't leave me with a bottle of stickles very long. Before you know it, the whole card is going to be covered in glitter. I think that's going to do it for today. Thanks for stopping by. Hit subscribe if you'd like to be notified of future videos. I plan on doing more in the future. You can also follow me on my blog, A Little Bit of Glitter, or on Instagram at Sandy Cogdill. It's SandyCogdill. Leave a comment if you'd like. I'll try to respond. Thank you and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.